people, even stars. She had joined the training camp on Kalos 3 with pride. It was her chance to learn more, to grow, and to maybe one day help protect Earth. She had passed every test so far with high scores. She was fast, smart, and calm under pressure. The other cadets looked up to her, even though she was the youngest. Kalia had an older cousin named Darin Ress. Darin was not a soldier. He was not a leader. He was something different. He worked for Earth's quietest department, a group that didn't have a name, didn't give interviews, and didn't wear uniforms. Some people said it was just a group of thinkers. Others said they ran the invisible parts of Earth's power, watching everything, missing nothing. When Darin heard about Kalia, he sat still for a long time. Then he opened an old file on his computer and typed one sentence. They made it personal. After that, the file vanished. There was another cadet named Yi Tun. He was calm and quiet, but when he spoke, people listened. His best friend from childhood was now one of the top officers in Earth's Border Watch. That friend, named Ro Lasser, didn't need to ask what had happened. When she saw Yi's name on the list, she stood from her seat and walked straight to her commander. She said one sentence. "Tell me where the Varkin are." The commander didn't ask questions. These were not just 10 strangers. They were 10 lives tied to people with skills, power, and heart. They were tied to people who built shields, who flew ships, who cracked codes, who gave orders, and who never forgot. The Varkin had not simply taken 10 trainees. They had touched 10 family trees, 10 lines of love, 10 circles of care and connection. They had hurt the wrong people. The pain spread far and deep. In small homes and tall towers, in space stations and bunkers underground, people whispered the names of the fallen. In quiet places, candles were lit. On ship walls, 10 photos were pinned side by side. In classrooms, teachers paused before roll call, looking at empty seats with heavy hearts. But humans don't stay still for long. Pain turns into purpose. Tears become action. Love becomes power. Somewhere in deep space, a group of space miners placed the names of the 10 on a steel beam and sent it drifting through the stars, like a flag of memory. On Earth, a group of young students made a message with light drones that flew high into the sky. The words said, "You took 10, we remember 10,000. Others began asking questions. Who were they? What were their dreams? What happens now? What happens now? That question echoed across Earth. It passed through meeting rooms. It flowed through labs. It sparked in minds and hearts. Because those 10 cadets were not gone. Not really. They lived in memories, in voices that said, "I knew them," in hands that now worked faster, eyes that now looked harder, and hearts that now beat stronger. And as the stars turned and the winds blew across Kalos 3, something grew on Earth. Not rage, not revenge, but a promise, a quiet one, made without words, but strong as iron. The kind of promise humans make when they've lost something they can never replace. The Varkins still didn't know what they had started. But they would soon. Because the people left behind were not just sad. They were ready. The deaths of the 10 cadets on Kalos 3 didn't stay quiet for long. At first, the enemy, the Varkeen, thought they had done something simple. They believed they had wiped out a small group of young trainees and that no one would notice. They were wrong. News spread fast. The names of the cadets reached every corner of Earth. Their pictures were shared. Their stories were told. People did not forget. They began to act. But the actions didn't come with shouting or threats. They didn't come from armies. They came quietly. They came like whispers in the dark, slow and steady, and it began with one missing ship. The Varkeen had many cargo ships moving through space. These ships carried food, fuel, and weapons. One of their biggest ships, the Grulven, vanished. It was not attacked. It didn't send a warning. It was just gone. The Varkeen searched for it. They sent scouts and drones. Nothing was found. No wreckage. No signal. It was as if the ship had never existed. Next came a space station. The Varkeen ran a large station near the edge of their space zone. It was full of workers, machines, and supplies. One morning, the entire station shut down. Doors would not open. Lights went out. Screens turned black. The workers inside were safe but trapped. All systems had stopped working. The station floated in space, silent and cold. When a team was sent to fix it, they found no damage. Nothing had been broken. But the systems had been wiped clean. Every file, every map, every plan, gone. People inside the station told a strange story. They said the last thing they saw on the screens was a message. It was only 2 words: "We remember." At first, the Varkeen leaders laughed. They called it a glitch. They said humans were too soft, too weak to fight back. They believed Earth would send words, not actions. But then another ship vanished. And then a small mining base on the moon Vexus 2 shut down. The lights flickered out just like before. The workers were fine. No one was hurt. But all the machines had been turned off. The base could no longer send or receive messages. These things did not happen by chance. They were not mistakes. They were steps. Each small move was a sign. The humans were not talking. They were doing, and they were doing it with care. In deep space near an asteroid field, a Varkeen patrol ship picked up a strange signal. It was weak, like a whisper. The signal was old Earth code. The crew didn't understand it, but one of them knew enough human language to translate. The message said, "This is only the beginning." The Varkeen still thought it was funny. Their news screens made jokes. They said humans were playing games. They laughed at Earth's silence. But some among them started to worry. In one quiet outpost, a Varkeen worker found his system down. He checked the controls. Nothing worked. A message blinked on the screen, 10 for 10,000. He didn't understand it at first. Then he remembered the names of the cadets. He turned off the screen and said nothing. Back on Earth, the people didn't say much either, but they were watching. They saw the Varkeen try to hide the truth, but Earth had its ways. Even without being there, they saw the fear begin to grow. They saw cracks form in the enemy's calm face. Earth's people didn't need to scream. They didn't need to make threats. Every small action was a note in a bigger song. A pattern was forming, first a ship, then a station, then a signal, each one made with care, made to send a message: "We do not forget. We are not afraid. We are coming." The next move was even quieter. A file was sent to a trading post far from both Earth and Varking space. It had names. It had lists of what the Varking had done, not just on Kalos 3, but on other small worlds. Planets where no one had dared speak up. Now the names were out. Traders read them. Merchants passed them on. The truth spread like fire in dry grass. Soon people across the galaxy knew. The Varking had not just hurt humans. They had hurt many. But no one had fought back until now. One by one, allies began to step away from the Varking. Quietly, they stopped trading. They stopped helping. They moved their ships elsewhere. No one made speeches. They just turned their backs. Still, the Varking leaders didn't believe it was serious. They thought they could fix things with money, with fear, or with lies. But something else happened next. A school on the planet Dura 7 found that all its computers had been reprogrammed overnight. Instead of their usual lessons, they showed a video. It told the story of the 10 cadets. It showed their faces, their voices, their dreams. No one knew who had sent it, but every child watched. Every teacher cried. After the video ended, a line appeared on the screen. Even stars remember. All of this was just the start. And Earth didn't stop there. Another move came when a Varking officer tried to use his personal transport ship. It wouldn't start. He called for help. The engineers opened the control system. Instead of normal code, they found something strange. It was a short note written in perfect Varking letters. "Let them rest, or we won't." The officer never used that ship again. More small things happened across space. A message played on the public screens in the capital city of a Varking planet. It was short. It showed the Earth flag, then it said, "Do you feel safe? We hope not." No one knew how it got there. The city guards couldn't trace it. The screen turned black after 5 seconds. Some Varking began to worry. They spoke in whispers. They asked questions. Were the humans really behind this? Could they really do so much without being seen? Some still said no. Others started to look over their shoulders. In the Earth Space Defense Center, the people worked in silence. They didn't speak of revenge. They didn't cheer for fear. They worked like builders. Each piece was placed carefully. Each message, each action, each quiet strike was part of something larger. And the galaxy noticed. In the middle of all this, a trader from a neutral planet told a story. He had landed at a Varking port. He saw the guards checking every ship twice. They were nervous. He asked why. One guard whispered, "We lost another ship last night, gone without a trace." The trader nodded. Then he said, "You should not have touched Earth's children." The guard had no answer. Somewhere far from the main paths of space, a group of humans sat in a quiet room. They didn't wear uniforms. They had no badges, but their screens were full of maps, names, and lights. They tracked every signal, every movement. One of them smiled and said, "They still think this is just the wind." Another nodded, "Let them think so. We are the storm." And the storm had just begun. Back in the training center on Earth, new cadets marched. They knew the names of the 10. They wore them on their sleeves. They trained harder. They moved faster. Every step they took was a promise. A promise that no one else would fall without answer. People on Earth didn't need to be told what was happening. They saw the signs. They knew their leaders were planning something, but they also knew it was not about anger. It was about justice. It was about balance. And as the small acts continued, another ship gone, another system dark, another secret message found, the Varkeen began to speak less. They no longer joked in their meetings. They no longer laughed in the halls. They started to check their doors twice before sleeping. Still, no one had fired a shot. No one had raised a weapon. Not yet. But the feeling was clear. The humans were moving. And they were just getting started. The Varkeen were proud. They ruled many planets. Their ships flew across the stars, and their leaders thought they controlled everything. They believed no one could ever scare them. But now, something strange was happening. Things were changing little by little. Small pieces of their power were breaking, and they didn't know why. At first, they ignored it. One ship gone, a mistake, a station dark, just bad luck, a few messages, nothing serious. That's what they told themselves, but deep inside some of them began to feel nervous. The Varkeen had always been the hunters. Now they were being hunted, and they couldn't see who was coming. Inside one of the Varkeen's command halls, a tall alien named Commander Trask stood looking at a large screen. The screen showed stars, stations, and moving ships, but something was missing. Whole patrols had stopped reporting. Some cargo never arrived. Data was disappearing. Trask frowned. His claws tapped the screen, zooming in and out. His voice was low when he said, "This is not chance." Behind him, 3 officers stood quietly. They didn't want to speak. One finally stepped forward and said, "It's humans, sir. We think they are behind this." Commander Trask turned slowly. His red eyes stared. "Humans?" he asked. "Yes, sir," the officer said. "It started after the Kalos 3 incident. We believe the humans are answering us." "Answering us," Trask repeated as if the words tasted wrong. "With what tricks? Hiding games?" "No," the officer said, "with plans." That word stayed in Trask's mind, plans. The Varkeen had always thought humans were weak. Yes, humans were clever. They built fast machines and trained hard. But the Varkeen had never seen them as a threat. Until now. Trask turned back to the screen. He saw 10 blinking red lights, 10 missing places, 10 lost pieces of Varkeen space. He narrowed his eyes. "Find patterns," he said. "Show me where they hit, how fast, and in what order. Bring me everything." The officers ran to their desks. Lights blinked. Maps changed. Charts moved. In less than an hour, the command hall filled with quiet voices and shaking hands. The results were clear. It wasn't random. Every lost ship had been near a certain path. Every station that went dark had once worked near human space. Every message, every glitch, every problem, they were not accidents. They were steps. Commander Trask stared at the maps again. His jaw tightened. This was not what he expected. He thought humans would yell, cry, or protest. But they didn't. They simply acted. They had started something very big and very quiet. Elsewhere, in a tall black tower on the Varkeen homeworld, the Supreme Council met. There were 12 Varkeen leaders. They were old and cold. They believed they controlled everything in the galaxy. But now they sat in silence. The room felt heavy. A long report had just been read. The report listed all the problems they were facing. No one wanted to believe it, but the facts could not be ignored. One of the leaders, Elder Vurash, finally spoke. His voice was dry like sand. "We crushed 10 humans. We did it in front of cameras. We wanted to scare Earth. But now the humans are not scared. We are." Another elder shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "We are not afraid, we are just watching." Elder Vurash looked around. "Then keep watching," he said, "because the humans are not stopping." The council did not want to show weakness, so they ordered more patrols. They sent extra guards to their stations. They scanned all ships near their space, but it didn't help. The attacks continued. And none of them looked like normal battles. One day, their biggest ore processing plant lost all its machines. The machines didn't break, they just turned off. The next day, a large banking center on a moon called Kreese 7 found its computers erased. All money records were gone. No alarms had been triggered. No enemy was seen. Still, the humans left a short message on one screen. It said, "10 sparks burn brighter than your whole fire." That line confused the Varkeen, but they couldn't ignore it anymore. Back in space, more leaders began asking questions. A general named Corin sent messages to all his stations. He asked, "Is Earth building ships? Is Earth sending spies? What do they want?" The answer came back from his top spy. It said, "Earth doesn't want war. They want you to feel what they felt. They want you to wonder every single day what will happen next." That scared General Corin more than any weapon. Soon every part of Varkeen space began to feel different. Workers stopped smiling. Pilots double-checked their paths. Soldiers stopped joking. They whispered in the halls. No one wanted to say it out loud, but everyone was thinking the same thing. The humans are coming. And the humans were not coming with guns. They were coming with silence. Back on the space station that had gone dark earlier, one technician found something strange. Deep inside the memory core of the station, hidden under hundreds of fake files, was a single video. The video was short. It showed 10 young humans in training suits. They were smiling, practicing, and learning. It was the 10 cadets, the ones the Varkeen had killed. The last few seconds of the video showed one of them laughing during a live fire drill, flames behind her, fearless. Then the screen faded to black. A line appeared. "You laughed at our pain, now we smile at your fear." The technician showed his captain. The captain didn't tell anyone else. He simply closed the video and whispered, "We made a mistake." Everywhere in Varkeen space, fear grew. Not because of death. Not because of bombs. But because of silence. Silence that moved, struck, and vanished. In one military camp, a group of soldiers was getting ready for patrol. One soldier opened his locker and found a small metal coin inside. It had no number, no writing, just a single mark, a human flag burned into it. The soldier dropped it. He looked around. Who had placed it there? How did it get in? No one had answers. In another place, a science lab that had worked on cloning machines was shut down. When guards arrived, they found all the work had been deleted. No files, no data, not even backups. Just one note printed on the main wall. "You build copies, we build memory." Even the strongest leaders began to whisper. Commander Trask held a meeting with his top minds. He paced the room and said, "We have always known how to fight with power. Now we face something new. We fight an enemy that doesn't show its face." One scientist raised his hand. "Commander, we should speak with Earth. Ask for a meeting." Trask slammed his hand on the table. "Never. That would make us weak." Another scientist spoke. "Then we'll keep losing." The room went quiet. Everyone knew that the humans were not going to stop. The attacks had no names, but the message was clear. This was not revenge. This was a lesson. And the Varkeen were finally beginning to learn. On a planet near Varkeen borders, a group of children played in a schoolyard. One of the teachers looked up at the sky. A strange shape passed overhead, too fast to catch, too small to track. When the teacher checked the school's computer, the weather screen showed a strange sentence. "Even your skis remember us." By now, no Varkeen leader laughed. They sat in meeting after meeting. They read report after report. Each one brought worse news. They tried to find the humans. They sent ships. They hired trackers. They scanned every path, every signal, but the humans were never seen. Only their work remained, like footsteps in the sand, like shadows in the light. One Varkeen captain finally said what everyone was thinking. "We rule many planets, but now we fear one small blue one." No one corrected him. No one argued. The truth was clear. And somewhere across the stars, Earth was watching. Earth was waiting. Earth was ready. The humans had not fired a shot. And yet they had turned the mighty Varkeen Empire into a scared, silent shell. Not with weapons, but with memory, with precision, with silence, and with something the Varkeen never expected. Far away from the Varkeen Empire, Earth was quiet. Cities still glowed with lights. Families still gathered at dinner. Kids still ran through parks. But under all the normal life, something important was happening. Not everyone could see it. Not everyone even knew. But deep beneath the ground, far away from cameras and crowds, secret rooms were filled with people who were not smiling. These people had lost something. They had lost friends, sisters, brothers, and teammates. 10 young cadets, bright, brave, full of hope, had been taken by the Varkeen. No warning, no chance. Just gone. Earth had watched the video. The galaxy had watched too, but Earth didn't cry for long. Earth began to plan. One room sat deep under the Rocky Mountains. It had no windows. Thick walls kept it safe. Inside, the lights were soft. The air was cold. Around a long table sat 12 people. Some wore suits. Others wore uniforms. All of them looked tired. Their faces were serious. No one laughed. No one joked. A small flag of Earth stood at the end of the table. A woman with short gray hair stood up. Her name was Commander Sloan. She had trained 4 of the 10 cadets. One of them had called her a second mom. She hadn't spoken much since the loss, but now she was ready. She looked around the room and said, "We are not here to talk about justice. We are here to make sure the Varkeen feel what we felt, quietly, fully, and completely." The others nodded. No one clapped. No one smiled. It was not that kind of meeting. One man tapped a small device. A map appeaed on the wall. It showed space paths, star systems, and trade routes. He pointed at bright dots. "These are Varking control zones," he said. "We can't fight them ship to ship. They're too big, but we don't need to fight that way." Another woman pointed at the chart. "We target their machines, their data, their pride. We leave a mark every time. No deaths, no explosions, just silence." Commander Sloan spoke again. "We show them what pain feels like when it stays with you. Not fire, not rage, just loss." Each person at the table had a job. One was a signal expert. He could turn a message into a whisper that flew through space and vanished. Another was a hacker. She had once broken into 3 alien banks in under 5 minutes. A third was a pilot who could land on a moving ship without being seen. These were Earth's shadows, and now they were going to work. But this wasn't only about breaking systems. It was also about remembering. One woman, a historian, spoke gently. "We keep their names, all 10. We tell their stories in quiet ways. We send videos, messages, images, hidden in news, games, songs. The Varking will see them. They'll never know where it came from, but it will be there. Always." Commander Sloan nodded. "Make it part of everything." The historian opened a case. Inside were 10 small books. Each one had a name, a story, a memory. She said, "Each cadet laughed once when things were hard. We start with that." The group built a list of targets, not ships, not cities, but places the Varking thought were safe: labs, banks, message centers, training sites. Every one of them had helped the Empire grow, and everyone would feel Earth's touch. They also planned words. Not just attacks. Words that stayed. One of the writers on the team stood up and said, "The Varking spoke with fear. We'll speak with calm. They used fear to scare. We'll use truth to remember." They came up with lines, not threats, not screams, just short sentences that stayed in the mind. Like, 10 cadets, 10 stars still burning. You took names, we wrote them in light. We do not chase, we wait, we learn. They printed these on cards, in code, on walls, inside machines. Soon these quiet sentences started appearing in the Varking's world. No one knew how they got there, but they kept showing up, again and again. Back in the meeting room, a young man walked in. He looked too young to be part of such a serious plan, but he was one of the cadets' older brothers. He had begged to help. Now he carried something in his hand, a small silver disc. He placed it on the table. This was hers, he said. She carried it during every training run. She said it brought her luck, but really she carried it for me, so I'd know she'd always come back. He paused. She didn't come back. Everyone looked at the disc. No one touched it. Commander Sloan finally said, "We'll carry it now." That disc became a symbol. They copied it. They sent images of it across Varking space. Each time a system broke, the disc appeared. Each time a door unlocked, it glowed for a second. Each time a file was erased, the disc stayed on the screen for a full minute. It was a mark, a reminder. The humans were not attacking from anger. They were answering with memory. Every person in that secret room had a job. They didn't wear medals. They didn't get applause. But they were building something. A plan, a message, and a storm. One that walked on quiet feet and carried heavy hearts. As the weeks passed, more secret rooms across Earth joined the plan. One group in Asia focused on code. Another group in Europe watched the stars. A small team in Africa mapped every Varking system. And a quiet bunker in South America trained spies who could walk like Varking, speak like Varking, and vanish like wind. Earth was not waiting for war. Earth was building something bigger. The Varking had laughed when they took the cadets. Now Earth would show them what laughter meant on a death world. Commander Sloan met with the teams each week. She listened more than she spoke. She watched the screens. She read every report. But at night she sat alone in her room. She kept a photo by her bed. It showed the cadets, all 10, standing in a line, muddy and tired, smiling with bright eyes. She never looked away from it. In the last meeting of the month, the group made one final choice. They would send no threats. They would make no demands. Their plan was simple: make the Varking feel the weight of silence. Let them look over their shoulder. Let them check every system twice. Let them ask, "Where are the humans?" And let them never hear an answer. One hacker smiled quietly as she typed. "They will fear us not for what we destroy," she said, "but for what we remember." Commander Sloan nodded. Then she gave the order. Begin. And with that, Earth's secret plan moved forward, soft as a whisper, sharp as a blade.